Whenever you set out to solve a problem, in any setting, the first thing you got to do is make sure you're looking at and attempting to solve the right problem, the root problem. And that's what we're doing with this video. In the video that recapped 2012 and set the stage for this announcement, I made a bold statement in which I said I have identified and been able to articulate why so many of our brothers and sisters have been committing suicide at an alarming rate. Coincidentally, the 2012 figures were just released yesterday, and it shows that service members committed suicide at a rate of 1 every 25 hours. And that is not even counting veterans that are no longer serving. And as you look through the headlines and you look through the news, you hear suicide referred to as one of the most urgent problems facing the Department of Defense. We're doing everything possible to prevent suicides in the military, highlighting the continuing rise in active duty suicides, coinciding with a bevy of new initiatives and programs. For example, a crisis number for suicidal thoughts if they spot a mental health disaster, talking about mental health red flags and battle and combat. Each time these ever-increasing suicide numbers are released, there's a flurry of media activity in which we resolve to solve the problem no matter the cost. You want to know why we haven't been able to succeed? Because suicide is not the problem. Yes, I said it. Suicide is not the problem, it's not a problem. It's a byproduct of and a symptom of the problem. That's why we've been continually failing as a society and a nation to do what needs to be done. Because we are focused on a distraction, on a symptom, and not the root. We're focused on the final stage. We're focused on the last gasp of a struggling service member about to collapse under the weight of the burdens life has stacked upon their shoulders. Our national focus on suicide and suicide prevention and crisis intervention, that is the problem. So right about now, you're probably asking yourself, how is having a focus on suicide prevention and crisis intervention a problem? Well, here's why it's a problem. If you were preventing a suicide, you are nothing more than an EMT using a defibrillator to shock a heart attack patient back into rhythm, and then kicking him out of the ambulance without ever attempting to discuss, diagnose, or treat the underlying heart condition that caused the heart attack in the first place. And that condition didn't just start yesterday. It started way back in the timeline and got exponentially worse as it went left, unrecognized, untreated, uncared about. Because in our current system, you gotta have a heart attack or be in the start of one before our resources and focus as a nation qualifies you to call those resources. And as that heart disease got steadily and steadily worse, it threw off ever-increasing signs and visible symptoms that there's an underlying root cause, that something was wrong, that something was eating away at that individual. But nobody's paying attention. Nobody cares. Nobody's focused on it because we're all looking all the way down at the end zone, not at the 10-yard line where we should be focused. While the media and the nation has been distracted by focusing on a small percentage of the total population of service members and veterans that have slipped through the cracks and made it to the final stage where they are contemplating a permanent solution to a temporary problem, who is focused on the majority that are in the beginning stage? So that begs the question, why are we waiting for them to be suicidal and or in crisis? That's the minority in the population. I am focused, and we should be focused on the majority of our brothers and sisters out there. For every one veteran or service member that has attempted or is successful with suicide, there are thousands of our brothers and sisters out there who are suffering and struggling in silence and solitude. They're feeling alone and disconnected. They're feeling that no one cares. They're stressed, so stressed, just struggling and clawing and fighting their way through each damn day just to finish and get through it. And the only thing they have to look forward to is to prepare and embrace the suck yet again the next day. They're having difficulty adapting. They're feeling that no one understands. There's a stigma, more of an internal than an external, about what they're feeling. They don't want to be seen as weak. They don't trust outsiders. We're proud. We have an OPSEC mentality. The warrior ethos. It's forever ingrained in our souls. Never accept defeat, never quit, never leave a fallen comrade. And that's what this is about. We as a population and a culture have a belief that civilians can't, or sometimes just won't understand. We've got that suck it up, drink water mentality. Loyalty. We can't let our family down. I can't let my kids down. I can't let my brothers down. I can't say that I need help. And therein lies one of the problems. We withdraw as stressors are added, as the world stacks each and every new burden upon our shoulders. But what do we do about it? What's there for us? How do we help? Spread the weight. So I repeat the question. What is there to help spread that load, to help share the burden, to help shore up and address those issues? Well, we're the richest nation in the world. There are a myriad of services, programs, and assistance available to help the population that's targeted and the issues they're experiencing that I described, but they're provided by a myriad of service providers that is just mind-boggling. From government institutions, nonprofit organizations, private providers, peer groups, state and county veteran service offices. Holy hell, where do you even begin? They're not connected in any way, shape, or form. They're separated and limited geographically, and it's intimidating. It's not our language. It's complex clinical speak. You've got confusing websites, bureaucracy, specific criteria for receiving specific services from each different organization. It's not spelled out anywhere. There is no clear start point. You got complex auto-attendant phone lines. Press 0 to talk to a real person. I'm sorry, that's not a valid option. Well, you know what? If I get that message, I'm never calling you again. And that may be the one time that I have reached out to get help. When I get an auto-attendant, that tells me that the place I called doesn't really give a crap. And everything is suicide and crisis wording. When we take a look at the divide between the population and its cultural barriers, and at the far side, the services available to help them, provided by the service providers, with the massive institutional barriers, when you look at that, I look at that, what I see is a black hole. I see a dark pit. I see the gap that our brothers and sisters are falling through at an alarming rate and are landing fatally hard. So again, we come back to this recurring theme of the problem. By focusing all of our national resources on suicide prevention, and crisis hotlines, using antiquated technological systems like call centers, and ignoring the communication and connection medium that we exist on in this century, which is social media, we are disqualifying the 90% of people we are trying to help from meeting the criteria for the resources that we as a nation have invested in to try and solve a problem that isn't a problem. We force our service members and veterans in need into a corner. There is no avenue for them until they are suicidal, until they are in crisis. And that is why we are failing. The way we exist as a system, and the way our focus is as a nation and as a society and as a community as it exists now, we cast aside the 90% of veterans and service members who need help, who need assistance, who need services, who need someone to talk to, someone to lean on, someone to reach out to that's not going to shove pills down their throat. And instead, we are solely focused on the 10% of those that have reached the final step in the spiral staircase downward and have fallen into the icy grip of the Grim Reaper and are considering a permanent solution to a temporary problem because we as a community, as a society, and as a nation have failed them. Because we were focused on only spotting the final death throes instead of the initial symptoms when we still had time to interrupt that cycle. So I pose a question to you and to all of us. If we focused on the 90% that are in the early stages and applied the mass of resources, services, and focus that exists now, would we see the 10% manifest? The answer to that question is entirely dependent on what we as a nation do if we are able to shift in a drastic way our thinking and approach. And that's what we are calling on you to do. So the end result is the answer to the question. For over a decade in this past conflicts, people have said the system is broken. But haven't been able to tell you why. Today I tell you why it is broken. And if you look at this screen and you see the gap, this is why it is broken. We expect them to reach out and navigate through this to get help? Our thinking is backward. Why is the onus and the responsibility on the population that desperately needs our assistance to not just reach out, but to conquer that first step, and then fight another battle to get to the end result of the services and assistance they need? Are we really surprised at what we are seeing? How could we expect anything different? Looking at that visual, the common theme is complexity, is layers, is barriers, is bureaucracy. The answer doesn't lie there, as the past decade of attempts have shown. Well, where does it lie? Well, the answer lies in and starts with us as a community of brothers and sisters in arms continuing the revival of the oath, I will never leave a fallen comrade, and supporting our brothers and sisters in need. The system is broken, and we will change that. This announcement is to let the world know of the existence and the emergence of Battle in Distress, a not-for-profit organization that, in partnership with the military and civilian community, will rapidly pick up a sledgehammer and in one fell swoop shatter with resounding force the barriers identified in this series of addresses, and clear the path for all of our brothers and sisters out there that aren't in crisis, that aren't suicidal, but just need a battle, and need support. They need to be helped through while they maintain their weapon high and continue to engage in the fight. We are a community to be reckoned with. We are millions strong, but we have been lying dormant for way too long. And I challenge each and every one of you that have worn or continue to wear the uniform to rise up with us and rally together and resolve to take care of the troop to your left and your right, regardless of their affiliation, race, color, creed, political beliefs, or gender. We are Battle in Distress. You don't walk alone. I'd carry you through the flames of hell, my flesh burned to the bone, through places where the demons dwell. You'll never be alone. We are your battle, now and always. You never walk alone. Battle in Distress. Stay tuned for the solution.